The 600th edition of the Four Corners podcast starts right now.
This is the Four Corners podcast.
Elton ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores. 17 seconds left. And he was fouled. Here we go. Lawson with a runner. No. The rebound. Hansbrough at the gun. Got it.
They were 4 for 24.
Hansbrough on a switch on Paulus. A deep three. And Green rips down the rebound in traffic. 4-on-1.
What a great job. What a terrific job in transition. I mean, you couldn't plan that any better as a coach.
Tipped away by Johnson. It's loose. Page. Johnson.
They're dancing in the aisles. They're high-fiving. They're celebrating. They're going bananas on Franklin Street.
Pass to Britt, 15 seconds to play. Up high to Page, gets a screen from Meeks. Page driving in on the left, high off the glass for two. Louisville with 7 seconds. Jones has it, goes left corner, Black's here for three. Back iron, 1 second to play. Stick up, no! Carolina wins it! The Tar Heels win it! 72-71. 6 seconds to go. Pinson comes front court. Pinson to May for the win. Got it! Luke May! He got it! 0.3 of a second! Luke May gives Carolina the 75-73 lead. Are you kidding me?
Inside 30 overall. Love, top of the key. Oh! Big time delivery.
Here are your hosts, Josh Marlowe and Anthony Pagnotta.
Hello and welcome into another live edition of the Four Corners podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Josh and Anthony, we're here with you guys on a Saturday night. We are back home from Chapel Hill. We made our way up there today for the South's oldest rivalry in football, where Carolina lost 17-16 in heartbreaking fashion. But tonight we're going to talk Carolina basketball. We're about 22 hours or so removed from Carolina losing to BYU in exhibition competition last night, and we're here to dissect that game from top to bottom. We're going to treat it like we do a regular season or an ACC tournament or an NCAA tournament recap. We're going to give you, the stat of the game. You'll hear from head coach Hubert Davis and so much more. But before we get to any part of tonight's episode, we will start by saying tonight is episode number 600. And we just want to thank you guys that have been along with us for the entire journey. It's been a lot of fun over the last. We're in season 5 of the show. 600 episodes has come and gone very, very quick. It's been a lot of fun. We've got to cover some really, really highs, a Final Four run, but we've had to cover some lows with a loss in the national championship game and some other disappointing losses along the way. But none of this would be possible without you guys. If we didn't have an audience, we would not have a platform. So we simply want to say thank you guys for supporting us through the first 600 episodes. And hopefully you'll be with us over the next 600, where hopefully we get to cover a national championship or two here in the near future. Let's go ahead and get to tonight's recap. As I mentioned, Carolina lost last night. We'll do loss because the game did not count. It does not go against the record of Hubert Davis as a coach, but they lost an exhibition competition 78-76 in Salt Lake City, Utah. It was a neutral floor exhibition. It was not played on the campus of BYU. And Carolina, I thought, represented itself very, very well against a preseason top 10 team. All eyes were going to be on the matchup of A.J. DeBansa and Caleb Wilson. DeBansa, the number 1 recruit for BYU. Wilson, a top 10 recruit for Carolina. And statistically, Wilson had the better game. He got a 22-point, 10-rebound double-double in 33 minutes. DeBansa was very good himself at 18 points, 8 rebounds in 34 minutes last night for the BYU Cougars. A big reason why BYU emerged victorious. They scored on they hit 5 of their last field goals. They scored on 7 of their last 8 possessions over the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And despite the fact that these two teams scored in the upper 70s, it was not a pretty game. Both teams shot in the low 40s from the field. They both shot at 20% or lower from behind the three-point line. And that was set by an ugly first half where Carolina turned it over 11 times and committed 11 fouls. And Carolina did all what they did last night without Luka Bogavac, who we knew was going to be, I guess, a game-time decision going in. He's still awaiting university clearance to play for Carolina. That has not happened, so he was not on the court last night. And so I think when you take all of this into perspective, the fact that Carolina was technically down a starter, you were on the road on a neutral floor in a different time zone, playing at elevation, in a game where Carolina was not perfect, I think they represented themselves very, very well. And there's a lot to come to this scrimmage or exhibition encouraged as opposed to discouraged, like maybe some other teams that have suffered some losses over this exhibition weekend in college basketball.
Yeah, no, I certainly think you should leave pretty encouraged about where Carolina is at. I mean, you saw, with Carolina not having their best, what we would assume will be their best half-court player, that they were able to find a way to be successful in, eventually in the half-court. And really just scoring-wise, I thought they were really good. I thought that was one of the things that you were hoping for in this game, was that you would see Carolina be able to score the ball at a pretty high rate, that they would shoot the ball better than they did last season. And even though they weren't great from beyond the arc, I thought as the game went along, you saw this team shoot better. You saw this team rebound better. That was what was really encouraging. Was I thought there were areas early in the game where they needed to make adjustments because they were getting beat in those areas. And I thought as the game went along, they were making those adjustments. I mean, there certainly were some guys where shots just weren't necessarily falling for them. And you're hoping that when Carolina ends up getting into the regular season, some of those shots start falling. But for the most part, I mean, everybody that you wanted to see play well played well for you last night. And so, I mean, you leave feeling pretty encouraged about Caleb Wilson. I thought, his 22 was actually pretty quiet. There weren't, a lot of highlight plays from him, but simply just made the shots that he had to throughout the night. And then Seth Trimble, same thing with him, for the most part, goes 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. Didn't make a ton of jump shots throughout the night, but still found a way to finish with 17 points by doing what he does best, getting to the basket, and then knocking down some shots late. So I really thought this was a really solid performance for Carolina. It gave you a look at also what's going to happen if you don't have Luka Bogavac to begin the season, what exactly they're going to roll with, which looks like the big lineup. And Caleb Wilson being as successful as he was playing in that big lineup, I think should make you very encouraged, because that was one of the things that we were wondering about coming into this game was, would he be able to succeed with that group? And I thought he definitely did in that 3 spot. He looked pretty good. So it shows you just how versatile he is and, just how good this Carolina team could be this year.
Yeah, no, I had no worries. I think what makes Caleb Wilson so dynamic is he's going to flourish with any sort of lineup. If the Carolina goes big, he's going to play, I think, at a high level. It's the other guys around him, and I thought Jaron Stevenson looked really, really good. That's what Jaron Stevenson was supposed to be really at Alabama. But he was never really that guy. But last night had 9 points for Carolina, was 3 of 5 from the field, and made 2 threes in 32 minutes. Was an impactful defender as well. The talking point with Seth Trimble, our good buddy Josh Smilo. I know it's basketball season when he's in my DM sending me voice messages talking about the team. He asked me about, the final play, the final shot, which was a great play drawn up by Hubert Davis to get Trimble to the front of the rim, and Trimble switched hands. And I do think ideally you want him to use his right hand and just, look, I get that that shot was going to be contested by Keita, but I want you to be tough enough to go challenge him and make the shot over him, or draw the foul. So I think, that's one that he probably would like to have back. But, this was the first time of this being his backcourt, this being his team. And I thought Seth Trimble looked like the Seth Trimble that we need him to be over the course of the regular season for Carolina to really reach its fullest potential as a basketball team. Let's go ahead and jump right into the box score, which is brought to you by our good friends over at Legacy Arcade. And Legacy Arcade and Social Casino are where you can win cash prizes playing roulette, blackjack, and your favorite slot games and multiplayer fish games. You can also win cash prizes playing your favorite arcade games as well. If you look at the picture on the screen, you scan that QR code, and then you type in the promo code HEELS, what that'll get you, you will get $100 in free play upon registering your account. One of the benefits of playing with Legacy Arcade, they're safe, secure, with 24-hour customer support service. There's instant redemption to the bank card or the credit card that you have on file. Speaking of credit cards, they accept all major credit cards, Skrill and ACH. And if you're an Apple or iPhone person, Apple Pay is coming very, very soon. So go over to Legacy Arcade, scan that QR code, then use that promo code HEELS and get $100 in free play upon registering your account. So now to the box score for Carolina. And then look, it's not pretty, but in some ways the box score should suggest that Carolina should have won a game. Carolina shot 46% from the field. They were 28 of 61. Meanwhile, BYU shot 42%. They were 27 of 65. I mentioned both teams struggled from three. Carolina 4 of 19 from deep. That comes out to 21%. BYU was 5 of 25 from three. That equates to 20%, but they made two big threes down the stretch. Both teams left points at the foul line. Carolina 16 of 21 from the free throw line. That comes out to 76%. BYU was 19 of 26. That comes out to 73%. The big boo-boo for Carolina, 19 turnovers, which led to 16 BYU points. On the other hand, just 12 BYU turnovers, which were converted into 15 points for Carolina. The rebounding battle advantaged Carolina 40-38. They won the defensive glass 24-20, but they were outworked on the offensive glass 18-16. Second chance points in favor of Carolina 14-12. Bench points were even at 10 apiece. Points in the paint were in favor of BYU 44-38. How about fast break points? 18-11 in favor of Carolina. We talked so much in the preseason this team's going to run. You saw that at different junctures in the game last night. Heels had 4 blocks. BYU had 5. 7 steals for Carolina, 12 for BYU. Carolina had 12 assists on 28 made baskets. BYU just 9 assists on 27 made baskets. The game was tied 8 times. There was 13 lead changes. All in all, Carolina led for 5 minutes and 42 seconds. BYU, on the other hand, they led for 31 minutes and 52 seconds. So that's a look at the box score. Let's now transition to the quote of the game, where you'll hear from head coach Hubert Davis, who said that even though this was an exhibition, that felt like a real game, and the huddles represented just that.
When in the huddles, it was pretty animated, which I like. And it goes back to the react and respond. I felt like every time it felt like BYU was going to go on a run, we stopped it. And we either caught back up or took the lead. And that was another thing that I was happy with.
I think that's a really good point, because there were different times where BYU could have ran away with the game. And by run away, I mean build an 8 to 10, 12-point lead and kind of manage it from that standpoint. Carolina just never let that happen. This game was tightly contested from the opening tip all the way to the final play, where Carolina had a chance to send the game to overtime. And I do think for it to be a preseason exhibition game, a game that does not count, it does not matter, it felt like a real game. Before that game came on, we watched a little bit of Purdue and Kentucky. That was an on-campus exhibition at Rupp Arena, but because it wasn't sold out, It wasn't full rup. You could tell that it was an exhibition game. Now, this game wasn't sold out. It was played in an NBA gym, but it had the feel of a game that mattered. And I found myself, there were 4 minutes to go, not nervous, but very anxious to see the way that game was going to play out, which I think really brings back to what we were told about this team all offseason, from its head coach, from its players, and then from the national media that has taken in practice. This is a competitive group, and this is a group that it doesn't matter what they're doing. If they're playing basketball, throwing darts, horseshoes, no matter what it is, they're going to compete to the fullest extent. You saw that on the court last night, and I think that's a big difference from a year ago, where it felt like so many times Carolina was simply going through the motions. This is a group that, it appears on the surface, is going to be one that's going to put on their hard hat, grab their lunchbox, do the dirty and do the dirty work to try to do whatever it takes to crash and scrawl to win a basketball game.
Yeah, I mean, they did that last night. I thought, as you mentioned, there were multiple times where it looked like BYU was going to have a chance to take control of the game, and Carolina just found a way to fight back every single time. They did exactly what they needed to get themselves back into the game. You saw some efficient play from them at certain points of the certain stretches of the game where Carolina really needed it. And so you're hoping that's something that's going to carry over into the regular season for this group. This definitely felt like this meant a lot to these guys, that this was a game that they wanted to be able to win, even though it didn't count in the win column. They wanted to show that this was a group that was still more than capable of functioning without Luka Bogavac, that this is a team that's still going to succeed with him off the floor, if that is the case to start the season. And I think they did that. You saw the leadership from guys like Seth Trimble. There's more of the lead by example type. I mean, Caleb Wilson, with what he was able to do, as a freshman in this game, making his first career start for Carolina, basically, he looked really good. And when you have a guy playing the way that he's playing, I think that really shows you. And then one of the other things that we really liked was what we saw from Henry Vesar. And it wasn't just what he was doing in terms of scoring wise or defensively, what he was doing rebounding wise. We really liked what we saw from him in terms of the talking on the floor. It seemed like there was more energy than there was last year from this group as a whole, but especially from a guy like Vesar, who I think that's going to be a really important role that he's going to play for Carolina this year, is that not only is he the guy that they're looking for at that big man spot, he's also a guy that they're looking for in terms of a boisterous type of player on the floor. Something that they didn't really have much of last year. Very quiet group, a group that really didn't exude confidence. That's what Henry Vesar exudes. And so I really thought that was something that stood out from this game and showed just the level of intensity that Carolina played in this one. And it's part of the reason why they were almost able to win this game, because they certainly didn't shoot the ball great, especially from the perimeter. And so I think that their level of fight in this game was a big part of the reason why they had an opportunity late in this game to win it. Even had that final possession where they could have possibly tied the game. If it wasn't for Seth Trimble, unfortunately, switching hands, as you said, would like to see him go up there with the right hand. But, this team did everything they needed to do to compete in this game. And now you're hoping that moving forward, we won't have to settle for silver linings. This will be one that these guys will take to heart and use when they have to play teams like Kansas, Michigan State, Kentucky in the non-conference.
The stat of the game, I went with turnovers. Carolina committed 19 of them. That led to, as I mentioned, 16 points for BYU off of them. On the other hand, just 12 points for BYU, or 12 turnovers for BYU. Carolina got 15 points off of their turnovers. And you look at the starters, every starter except Seth Trimble committed at least one turnover, led by Jaron Stevenson, who committed 5. The fewest amount of turnovers by a starter that committed one was Kyan Evans with 1. But then, it was some of your reserves. Hayden High, 3 turnovers in 5 minutes. James Brown, 2 turnovers in 3 minutes because he forgot how to set screens. And then you had Derek Dixon, a freshman, with 3 turnovers in his 17 minutes. So, but that's why you play these games. And it's the benefit of playing these games is you get a chance to, clean some things up, put some stuff on tape and film that's easier to get your message across and film when you're playing against someone else as opposed to against playing with someone. But Carolina turned it over 22 times last year against Memphis and won the game. So again, that's one of the things where, because it's an exhibition, like, yes, these turnovers they still count and they're still real, but how much are they truly impacting the game? We don't really know. I do think it impacted the game last night. I think if Carolina commits the number of turnovers that BYU commits, I do think Carolina does emerge, quote unquote, victorious in the game. Let's go ahead and get to more thoughts, more takeaways from the BYU loss last night. We'll start with freshman sensation Caleb Wilson, who was just absolutely dominant at different points in the game. As I mentioned, a 22-point, 10-rebound double-double in 33 minutes. He quote tweeted a quote from the basketball account where he said he's just getting started. And that's kind of just this kid's mindset. And we knew him and AJ Debinsa were going to get matched up with each other a lot. That was the injury going into the game. And you could see there were possessions where it felt like an NBA game, where it was just two dudes that knew they were the two best players on the court going after one another. In one possession, Wilson would get the better of Debinsa. The next possession, Debinsa would get the better of him. Now, I'll say this, and I can't believe I'm complaining about exhibition officiating. Wilson did not get half the whistle that Debinsa got. And if Debinsa is going to get that whistle on a consistent night, he's going to put up a lot of points because he's going to live at the foul line. With that being said, though, I think you saw what you wanted to see from Caleb Wilson. Outside of the fact that he only took 1 3 and missed it, you saw what he's going to be able to do for Carolina. He's going to get to the offensive glass and score. He's going to get a defensive rebound, push the ball up the court on his own, be able to get downhill, get a bucket, draw a foul. He hit a turnaround shot in someone's face that was just filthy. I felt bad for the poor kid because he played as well as the defense as he could have played, and Caleb Wilson just shot it over him like he wasn't even there. And so, I had a little fun back and forth with our good buddy Nada Edwards, the Ion College basketball producer, who does not believe that Caleb Wilson is in the same class, the same stratosphere as AJ Debinsa. I disagree, and I do think last night Caleb Wilson made it known to the college basketball world he's going to be a problem, and he's only going to get better the more basketball he plays.
Yeah, I think he definitely looked the part last night, and that was one of the main things that we were looking for coming into this game was, would the true freshman be able to not only look good, but really a chance for him to show out, because we knew that AJ Debinsa was going to come out and put together a strong performance. And, the thing that I really liked about what we saw from him was not only was he scoring the ball on the offensive end of the floor the way that he needed to. You mentioned the second chance scoring, which I thought was definitely an area of his game that maybe some people didn't expect that you would really see. That showed up last night. 4 offensive rebounds, led the team overall in rebounding with 10. I thought that was very important as well. And then you talked about that turnaround jump shot that he hit, which was just a tremendous shot. Really nothing that the defender could do. Those are the types of buckets that you're hoping he's going to make throughout the year. But what really impressed me was what he was able to do defensively. He was able to guard anywhere from the 4 to the 1 and did so at a pretty elite level. He had three blocks last night, a steal, really just did everything defensively for Carolina, and gave AJ Debinsa fits at times during the game. Yeah, Debinsa still scored 18. He had a couple of really nice moves on some other guys, but it wasn't on Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson shut down just about anybody that he was on the entire night. And this was one thing that I really preached after that All-American game when people were coming back and saying, well, Caleb didn't really score the ball all that well in this game. What does that ultimately mean for his upside? Ultimately, I think he's a guy that showed you in this performance that he has the capabilities to score the ball at a pretty high level. the better part is that he is a really, really strong defender. He shows the effort on that end of the floor, and really he can do anything that Carolina needs him to do. That type of versatility to be able to play pretty much anywhere on the floor and affect the game on both ends is not something that comes easy, especially to Carolina recruits over the last few years. So this is a tremendous, tremendous young freshman that I think is only scratching the surface of what he could possibly be for Carolina this year, which should have you incredibly excited if you are a Tar Heel fan.
The thing that stands out to me is just the energy, the effort, the activity. He's always doing something, and it's something that's benefiting the team. There was one possession where he did not contest a corner three, and maybe the scouting report was the reason why. I don't know. But there was only one time where I was legitimately, I guess if you want to call it frustrated with the effort. Outside of that, if he plays the way he played last night for 35 plus games, Carolina's going to be really, really good. And so I'm just really excited to see kind of how he grows. You had some people that were saying, hey, this looks like Marvin Williams 2.0. If he's Marvin Williams 2.0, that's going to be a positive thing for Carolina. That's going to be a real positive thing for Hubert Davis. The second thing we'll talk about was the revamped front court. And what I wrote was that they showed promise. It wasn't a dominant performance. It wasn't an overwhelming performance. But you see the path to what this team can be, especially if Luka Bogavac is going to miss some sort of time and you're having to start a bigger lineup with Caleb Wilson, Visar, and Jared Stevenson. Those three guys combined to score 45 points. They combined to grab 20 rebounds, and they all three played at least 32 minutes. Now, another sign that that it's basketball season is when Myron Goodman is commenting and being very cynical about an opening night or an opening game exhibition or scrimmage. When talking with our good buddy Greg Ward, he said that Zayden High and James Brown are like rotation bigs right now, which I would disagree with that. I think they both struggled with some turnover issues last night, but I do think that they are rotation bigs and they're going to be rotation bigs. But the big three that started are the big three that we're going to focus on, and if that's the kind of production Carolina can get more often than not, both from a scoring output and a rebounding output, Carolina is going to be really, really good. And for someone like John Rothstein that has said, hey, the strength of this team is in the front court, then he's going to be vindicated. Henry Visar, I thought last night, was everything and more that Carolina was missing a year ago. Had 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 33 minutes, was 5 of 12 from the field, 4 of 4 from the foul line, failed to make a three-pointer, but he has that ability, and I thought the threes that he took were good threes. They were quality threes, and those are threes that I think more often than not he'll make as the season moves along. You saw him in the pick-and-roll game. One of the second-to-last timeout Hubert Davis called. He called a pick-and-roll set for him. He had a tough contested finish at the rim. He put the ball in the basket. Carolina wasn't doing that a year ago because Van Allen Lubin couldn't catch a bounce pass because he had bricks for hands. That's not the case with Henry Visar. I thought his screening was sensational. And then more importantly, there's a vocal leadership he provides that Carolina lacked a year ago and desperately needed. And he, was not afraid to be very talkative, whether it was when he made a play, whether it was when he made a mistake or when his teammates made a mistake. He was there holding someone accountable. And so for a guy that's new to Carolina as an Arizona transfer, he felt like a Carolina player that's been here for 2 to 3 years with the way that he carried himself on and off the court. And so, I'm looking at this front court. There's a lot of hype, a lot of potential around it. And I think you could see why people are so high on it, because you've got a multitude of guys that can score the basketball in a multitude of different ways. They're virtually all committed to getting to the offensive and the defensive glass. They held their own defensively as well in their one-on-ones. And so I thought it was a really good first step in the right direction for a revamped front court that Hubert Davis is putting a lot of stock into going into his make or break season.
Yeah, I really thought that Vasar played really well. I mean, this was what we thought we were getting when you went into the transfer portal and got him. He's a guy that, was able to score the ball, did a really good job of finishing through contact for Carolina, which was something that I really think Carolina struggled to get from Vin Allen Lubin at times last year. I mean, if you were able to be physical with Vin Allen Lubin, if they weren't calling fouls, then, Vin wasn't a guy that was going to be able to finish the way that Henry is. And I think that's what you really liked about him on the offensive end. He was able to stretch the floor, even though he didn't knock down a three from the outside. Just that threat was so much different for Carolina. It opened up the floor so much more for Carolina and allowed them to do a lot of different things. I mean, you talk about the pick and roll game that he, succeeds in, but he's also got that pick and pop ability. So that's something that's going to be different for Carolina. I thought, yeah, his screening was sensational. That's what you're looking for from a screener. Something that was not the strength of any of Carolina's bigs last year, whether it was Jalen Washington or Vin Allen Lubin. But you saw that, when he was off the floor, there was an effect. I thought last night, I mean, look, I don't know if you would say that these guys are not rotational bigs. I mean, the fact that neither guy scored is definitely concerning. That's something that you're hoping moving forward you're going to be able to see out of these guys, and you're hoping that Henry Vasar isn't a guy that's going to have to necessarily play 33 minutes for you. But if that is the case, then it is what it is. He showed you last night that he has the ability to be able to do that, he is clearly in good enough shape to be able to do that. And so I think his impact, was really felt throughout as well. Offensive rebounding, I thought he was sensational. The one area that you'd like to see him be a little bit better in this game was on the defensive glass. Keba Keita was able to have a pretty successful night offensively on the glass, had 7 offensive rebounds against him. So, I mean, not only him, it was other guys who need to be able to rebound defensively a little bit better as well. I thought that was one area that Carolina could have cleaned up along with the turnovers. But I really did think that I liked what I saw from him. And then defensively, I thought he had a couple of really nice plays on the defensive end of the floor. Really nice block. He created 2 steals for Carolina, so very active hands. I really liked what I saw from him on both ends of the floor, and I think he's going to be the type of big man that Carolina was missing last year. And then, Jaren Stevenson, I think, looked really good, especially for a guy that seems to be learning on the fly how to be a more effective post player. Only had 2 rebounds in this game. You'd like to see that number certainly increase. Did turn the ball over 5 times in this game, but I thought what he was able to do offensively was really impactful. I mean, 9 points in this game, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. That's certainly an area that you're going to hope he's going to be impactful in this season. And I thought he just did some good things for Carolina on the offensive end of the floor, even when the ball wasn't necessarily in his hands. So I think he's certainly someone that you can be encouraged by. Of course, Caleb Wilson is someone that you're encouraged by with what he did, as we talked about just a minute ago. It's just about figuring out that backup 5 spot. Do you have a guy that can take up a decent chunk of minutes, especially if Henry Vasar is to get into foul trouble, which there could be times this season where that happens. You've got to figure out who that next guy is. And I just didn't leave this game feeling confident in either one of those 2 options, where I thought I was going to feel confident in Zayden High, building off of what he did in the Cherokee scrimmage. We didn't necessarily see that from him, and hopefully we'll see that a little bit more in the scrimmage or in the exhibition game against Winston-Salem State on Wednesday night.
Let's get to the backcourt, because the way that I described it was an up and down night. Seth Trimble was Seth Trimble. He was sensational is too strong of a word, but he was very much what Carolina is expecting him to be this season. 17 points, 6 of 12 shooting, did grab 7 rebounds, had 2 ferocious dunks in transition as well, but was 0-3 from the field and left 2 points there at the foul line. there's already, some heat coming in from Myron Goodman and some others on Kyan Evans because Kyan Evans had just 4 points, was 2 of 5 from the field. All 3 of his misses were from behind the three-point line and played just 21 minutes because of early foul trouble. But he had a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, which was the best on the team of any Tar Heel last night. If he's going to have a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, I think we can live with his scoring coming along as he continues to kind of grasp and adjust to playing basketball here at the ACC level here at a place like North Carolina. You look at some guys coming off the bench. Jaden Young just had nothing to show for in his 8 minutes except a bunch of fouls. But Derek Dixon, I thought, did some really nice things. 7 points in 17 minutes. Including was one of the guys to make a three-pointer for Carolina, did a really good job. And this is what makes Vassar such a great, screener is that whenever he does screen, he does demand so much attention. So when he rolled, they were in some sort of a drop coverage. Derek Dixon's able to dribble right into a rhythm three and put it in the bottom of the net. Well, for Kyan Evans, was it maybe the best of games? Absolutely not. I do think that he was a guy that got the short end of the stick with a foul that got him on the bench, but he made the first shot of the game for Carolina. Like he came out and hunted his offense and found it. I think the fact that he spent so much time on the bench is why when he got back into the game, he was more focused about being a passer as opposed to a scorer because his offensive game wasn't in rhythm because he spent so much time there on the pine. And so, I do think there's whether it's a freshman or a transfer, there's a learning curve that we've got to give these guys when they're playing point guard here. Because I was being told about how it's the most important position. This is coming from an educated person. Yeah, I know that. I don't need someone to tell me how important it is to play point guard. I know how important it is. I also know it's a learning curve. And outside of really Kendall Marshall, there haven't been too many freshmen or first-year players that showed up and make it look easy. Marcus Page took some time. Joel Berry took some time. Kobe White took some time. Cole Anthony had a great debut, got injured. It took some time for him to learn how to play point guard at Carolina with how much Carolina puts on their point guards. And so this is, again, the benefit of these types of moments in games is that, he got his feet wet, and he did so against premier competition, against a top 10 team. This will help him when Carolina plays Kansas that first week of the regular season. You want to see him take a big step in the right direction Wednesday night against Winston-Salem, but all in all, you look at a backcourt, and I didn't come away displeased or upset with them. I came away with them liking what I saw from Seth Trimble and then encouraged by what these other guys can and will be as the season moves along.
Yeah, I thought – for Trimble, I think this is kind of what you expect from him for most of the season. Now, you would like for him to shoot a little bit better from beyond the arc. I thought there were some good looks that he had, but he just wasn't able to knock them down. There were, a couple other times where I thought he could have caught the ball and shot it. Instead, catches the ball, takes a dribble step to his left, and ends up missing a three. I think some of that will come as the season goes along. And you're just hoping that that's really the area that he improves is from the perimeter, because every other area of his game, he's really pretty good at offensively. And that's one of the reasons why I think he has a chance to be this team's leading scorer this year. The other guys, Kyan Evans, I think the fact that he played 21 minutes in this game, they played Derek Dixon a lot, I think, shows you that maybe there is a little bit of a, competition that's going on there for minutes, that Kyan Evans isn't necessarily a guy that's going to be playing 30 minutes a game for Carolina because maybe he's just not there yet. But that doesn't mean that he can't get there. I think what you're looking for from him is, something similar to what happened at Colorado State, where as the year goes along, he starts to become more impactful. 2 of 5 in this game. Wasn't really hunting his shot out that much because you had other guys that were succeeding. When there are other guys on the court that are making plays, I want him to be able to share the basketball and find those guys. And he was the guy that was sharing the basketball the best. In this game, just, has 5 assists, just 1 turnover. That was the thing that I thought was so much different about him than Elliot Cadeau, because there were some people comparing his impact to Elliot Cadeau. Well, first of all, he's not nearly that limited offensively. I know he was 0 of 3 from beyond the arc, but he's a guy that's going to be able to knock down shots from the outside as the season goes along. That's part of his game. That was a big part of the reason he was able to be so successful down the stretch of the season at Colorado State. That'll come in time for him. I thought the fact that he was able to take care of the basketball the way that he was really encouraging in this game. And so I feel like overall he was a plus for Carolina when he was on the floor. Derek Dixon, there were some moments from him where he looked good. He scored 7 points in this game, was a little bit more aggressive seeking his offense when he was on the floor in 17 minutes. Ends up 2 of 5 from the field. Does get to the foul line, knocks down both shots there, and was 1 of 3 from beyond the arc, but just 1 assist. Wasn't nearly as efficient as Kyan Evans was because he had 3 turnovers to go with it. So I think he's a guy that's learning on the fly here as a freshman, but I think you saw that we are going to see him a little bit more than maybe we were expecting. We thought Jaden Young might be that guy in the backcourt that gets the most minutes as that primary guy off the bench. I think that primary guy off the bench might be Derek Dixon for Carolina this year, because they're still trying to figure out whether Kyan Evans is a guy that's going to be capable of playing 30 minutes a game, or if he's someone that should be playing around 25 minutes a game and allowing Derek Dixon to get some playing time on the court. I think we know that Dixon now, with him being healthy, is clearly the backup point guard, a guy that they feel comfortable running at that 1 guard spot. Jaden Young, not a guy that they feel comfortable running at that spot. He was a guy that really just played the 2 guard exclusively. So I think that's something that we learned in this game. And then, Jonathan Powell, I would lump him in with this group as well. I thought he was pretty solid. I thought there were some really good minutes for him on the court. Defensively, I think that's one of the areas that we were hoping that he would be able to bring something for Carolina. Still a little bit of a work in progress on that end of the floor, but, scores 3 points in this game, did knock down a shot from the outside. I thought that was a really nice shot in transition for him to knock down, did pull down 4 rebounds. Probably needs to be a little bit more involved on the offensive end of the floor if he's going to be in there for Luka at times. But, overall, I liked what I saw from him as well. I just don't know if he's going to be a guy that's going to make a huge impact for Carolina off the bench this year. But I think the backcourt, still a work in progress. There's no doubt about that. Far from a perfect performance for that group, but definitely a lot of things to be encouraged about, especially with Seth Trimble scoring the way that he did.
Yeah, a couple things. I'll piggyback off of what you said, then we'll move on. I don't think Kyan Evans is competing for minutes. I think he played 14 minutes in the second half, only played 7 in the first half because of foul trouble. He's going to play 28, 30, 32 minutes every single night. I don't think Derek Dixon's going to compete to take away minutes away from him. It's a good thing that Derek Dixon does appear ready to go because Jaden Young, I thought last night, was disappointing. If you want to tell me that if there's one guy that I was disappointed in, it was him, because a guy that I really valued and understood the addition did nothing to help Carolina win in his 8 minutes on the floor, committed 3 fouls. I think for Jonathan Powell, I think fans, you've got to watch him and understand that you can impact winning without putting the ball in the basket. And because of his reputation as a shooter, that's all people are going to focus on, is how many shots is he taking, how many shots is he making. And yes, when you can shoot the ball the way that he can, I want him to shoot the ball more than 3 times in 15 minutes. But if he's going to give me 4 rebounds while he's on the floor and defend the way that I thought he defended at certain times, I can live with him I can still say that he's impacting the game in a positive way, as opposed to if he's not putting the ball in the basket. And I think that's what's really different about this roster compared to the roster last year, is that you have guys that can impact winning without them doing the one thing that they're there to do. And that was what made Carolina so good 2 years ago, is that you had a nucleus of guys that could do a bunch of different things that, showed up in the stat sheet, that didn't show up in the stat sheet, but it impacted the scoreboard. And I think Carolina has a nice mix and a nice blend of that. It's all about it really coming together like it did for Hubert Davis 2 years ago when he brought in a roster that featured 9 new players. Let's get to the one last real thought and takeaway before a quick discussion topic, and we'll get out of here on a Saturday night. The Luka absence, there's no way to not talk about it. We're not going to use it as an excuse, but considering how much he's been on the floor, in the blue-white game and the Cherokee scrimmage, for him not to be on the court, I do think is something that was a big reason why Carolina looked clunky in the half court, and why sometimes their spacing wasn't where it was, and why the shot making wasn't where it was, because your best shot maker was on the bench in street clothes, not wearing a Carolina basketball uniform. How much of that are you open to hearing why Carolina maybe shot just 46% from the field, 21% from three? I'm of the belief that if Luka's on the floor and everything in this box score and everything that I saw is still the same, I think Carolina probably wins by 6, 8, maybe even 10 points, because I think he'd be that much of a difference maker. He'd be that much of a positive for Carolina. Are you in the same place as I am, or are you maybe not as open to hearing that maybe as a quote-unquote excuse for why Carolina looked the way they looked last night without Luka Bogavac?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be taken as an excuse. I mean, you just know that Carolina would have been more efficient on that end of the floor. And, they in the half court, I mean, this is a guy that we saw in the blue-white scrimmage was able to create in the half court in a way that other guys simply weren't. And you would expect that he, being the guy that we looked at as probably Carolina's best perimeter shooter, would have been able to knock down some shots from the outside. Now, who knows, what he ends up contributing defensively. Maybe he isn't nearly as good defensively as Caleb Wilson was on A.J. Dybantsa. Maybe that means less matchups for Caleb Wilson against A.J. Dybantsa. And maybe BYU's able to score the ball a little bit more. But I really do feel like on the offensive end of the floor, he would have made that much of a difference. And I think Carolina probably does end up winning this game. He's also a guy that looked really good in transition for Carolina in that blue-white game. So maybe Carolina is able to get out in transition a little bit more. Maybe they are able to rebound a little bit better. I mean, we said it, Jaren Stevenson, the guy that basically replaced him in the lineup, because if he is active, he's in there. Caleb Wilson's at the 4, and then Henry Vesar is down there at the 5. Jaren Stevenson playing the 4 only had 2 rebounds. So it wouldn't have taken much for Luka to be able to match that production in that area. I really do think that it would have made that much of a difference to have him out there. And that's the reason why you're hoping that he comes back, is because what he's able to do in the half court offensively is something that Carolina needs. It wasn't that Carolina's offense was as bad as it was last year. I thought the ball moved. I thought the ball changed sides of the court very often. It looked a lot better than it did a year ago in the half court. But still, you could tell that Carolina was just missing something on that end, just missing a shot creator and a shot maker. That's what Luka Bogavac is. And I think if he plays moving forward for Carolina, there's a good chance that this team is balanced enough offensively to be one of the better offenses in the ACC and allow this team to be very successful this year.
All right, let's get to a really quick discussion topic, and then we'll get out of here for tonight, because newsflash, folks, we got many more podcasts coming your way over the next several days. So after the game, I sent out just a quick thoughts tweet at my Twitter account, HTB_Josh. If you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure you do so. I'd love to have you along talking Carolina basketball for this season. And I put it down, I think, 5 to 6, 7 things from the game. There were 6, 7 things that I really took away from the game last night. And This tweet's gotten a lot of interaction with a lot of likes, comments, and quotes on it. And to my surprise, very positive, very uplifting, and very in the right headspace where I think you should be as a Carolina fan after what you saw last night with some of the things that went against Carolina. And we've got some good comments here on our thread from Greg Ward, from Jill Mary Brown, and so many other guys. Did last night make you think any different about this team's potential? The fact that they went on the road, neutral environment, in a different time zone and elevation. It's not easy and Carolina flew out on Thursday afternoon. It was Thursday afternoon that they made the flight to Salt Lake City. It wasn't Wednesday. It wasn't Thursday morning. It was basically not about a 24 to 30 hour time they were in Salt Lake before they took the court, and they went toe to toe with the preseason top 10 team without one of their best players in Luka Bogavac. So not that you weren't high on the team coming into the season, but did you look at what you saw last night and think any different about this team's potential as we get closer and closer to the official start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you left feeling probably a little bit better about this team. Now, again, it's really all about what you feel, what you felt about this team coming in. Did you look at this team as one of the better teams in the ACC? Did you look at them as a team that you thought was going to make the NCAA tournament without much issue? I think that's what they looked like last night for sure. One thing that I think it showed me was that their ceiling is a little bit higher than maybe I thought, especially because of what you saw from Caleb Wilson. If Caleb Wilson can continue to do that, if this team's going to play as good as they played without Luka Bogavac, then this team has a chance, if Luka is cleared and if Caleb Wilson continues to play this way, this team could make an Elite Eight, potentially with the right breaks, a Final Four. I think that's where you probably feel like maybe things were expanded a little bit. The floor for this team, yeah, maybe you're still thinking that the floor is probably where you were at in terms of your expectations for this year. Maybe those haven't shifted fully based off an exhibition, but I do think that it gives you some hope that things can be a little bit better, ceiling-wise for this group, because there's just so much potential on this team, man. And you saw it last night. You saw how much deeper this team is, how much bigger this team is up front. And I promise you that as the season goes along, especially if Luka gets out there on the floor, this is going to be a much better shooting team than they were a year ago. So for all of those reasons, it should have you feeling much better leaving last night, because I do think there was a little bit of apprehension, a little bit of concern, going into the game of, what if we don't look all that great? What if Luka's absence really does take that much of a toll on this team that they struggle against BYU? They didn't struggle. They fought in this game. They had a chance to win this game against a team that comes into the season preseason top 10 for a good reason, because of the talent that's on their roster. There's some areas that they need to clean up, but for the most part, I do think this showed you that this is a really good team. This is a team that is going to challenge for the ACC this season, and this is a team that, hopefully will be good enough to save Hubert Davis's job for at least one more season.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that I feel any different. I think I'm just more convicted about what I've said all preseason long, all summer long. I think they're going to finish top 3 in the league. And I do think that when they're playing Louisville in February, I think that game's going to have big-time ramifications on the ACC regular season. I think those 2 games against Duke are going to have big-time ramifications on the regular season. And I think this is going to be a second weekend of the tournament type of team, because that's what second weekend of the tournament type of teams, what they do? They go on the road and they compete the way Carolina competed last night without a starter. So, I'm Okay, we are back. It appears that we had some internet issues right there, but as I mentioned, I thought everything was good and I came away just really convicted by what I saw. And I think this is going to be a team that's going to be really, really good. They're going to be fun to watch. We're going to watch this team grow. We're going to watch this team get better. We're going to watch this team come together. And I thought last night, albeit in a quote unquote loss, was a real positive step in the right direction, a real big step in the right direction for Carolina, for this team. With that, folks, it is going to wrap up this edition of the Four Corners podcast. In the meantime, we will direct you guys to the website. That's heeltoughblog.com, where coverage from the game last night can be found on the website. I had the preview up for you guys. I came back this morning and wrote my takeaways. You can go and check that out. It's not a quick turnaround, but kind of what you typically see. It's a 5-day break in between games, like a Tuesday, Saturday. It's a Friday to a Wednesday, but Carolina back in action on Wednesday night against Winston-Salem State. Well, so I'll have you ready for that game as well with a what to watch for article, and then of course my takeaway article as well. Football things we got you covered. Carolina lost today against Virginia. That recap will be up and available on the website for you guys tomorrow. And then we'll be getting you ready for Syracuse this upcoming week. Everything you need to know about that game will be found at heeltoughblog.com. So that's where we encourage you guys to visit every single day, heeltoughblog.com, for the latest and the best coverage of Carolina basketball and Tar Heel football. As for the podcast, you guys know where to find us by now. Every major podcasting platform. Simply search the Four Corners podcast and we'll pop up. That's where we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any editions of the show throughout the remainder of the preseason, but then on into the regular season. If you're a video consumer of the podcast, the best way to keep up with us is to like and follow us on Facebook at Heel Tough Blog, on YouTube at Heel Tough Blog, and at my personal Twitter at HTB_Josh. If you like and follow any of those pages, well, once you like it, you'll be notified the second we go live, and you don't miss any of our coverage talking Carolina basketball. But with that, folks, it is going to wrap up this edition of the show. I do want to thank Anthony once again for hosting with me. We want to thank all of you for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.